This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Glazov Gang. I am your host, Aynaz Anni Cyrus, sitting in for the one and only Dr. Jamie Glazov. Before we bring on our very special guest this evening, let me remind you we are a fan-generated show. We've been here for over 13 years only because of you and your support. And as always, we are going to let you know that we are eternally grateful for your support. However, we still need your help every week for every episode. Go to jamieglazov.com, make a contribution of any amount you can, as the end of the year is coming. Hopefully you can afford some more, and consider it your Christmas gift to the Glazov Gang team. Also, make sure you're subscribed to our Rumble and YouTube channel and click that bell icon so every time we go live, or if you post a clip, you get a notification and do not miss it. And as Jamie would allow me to say, we still have my artist studio running, and you can grab 1, 2, 5, 10, I don't know, all your Christmas gifts or Christmas decorations at lutfstudio.com. That is lutfstudio.com. Okay, without further ado, it is an honor and privilege to introduce our guest, the man who needs no introduction, the constitutional sheriff. I think he's America's sheriff, Sheriff Mack. Sheriff Mack, what an honor to have you back again.
Thank you so much for having me. Now, give me your first name again.
Annie.
Okay, I thought you said something else when you just introduced yourself. So I don't. I'm getting old, so my hearing isn't as good as my speaking.
Oh, no, you're correct. On the introduction, I give my full name, which is Aynaz Anni Cyrus. But to make it easy for everyone, I just go with
okay.
Annie. But Aynaz is the proper given name when I was born in Iran. Okay, we have a lot to discuss and not enough time. I've been almost counting moments to have you on. We just went through a 2025 election. I don't know where you're at with it, and I would love to have your point of view as an American, as a patriot who has never been afraid to stand up to anyone and anything in any level and any power when it came to our Constitution. Let's start with the first disaster of New York City, the Marxist Islamist Mamdani becoming the next mayor. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Look, I first want to make sure we address the issue of Muslims in America. I don't care who comes to America. I don't care who your daddy was. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what color your hair is. I don't care if your hair has a white streak in it. By the way, I really like that, but just so you know. But I don't care. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care. But when you're in America, when you become part of the United States of America, you become part of our history. You become part of our tenets, our beliefs, our principles, the principles upon which our country was founded. You become part of our Constitution, the supreme law of the land. And it just so happens that our Constitution is the antithesis. For those of you who don't know that word, I'm going to make this very clear. The opposite of what our Constitution established. Socialism and communism are the antithesis of American liberty. Because those two forms of government, and they're paternal twins, the government makes the decision for all of us, for our schooling, how many kids we have, that we don't own property, that everything we have is owned by the community, which means communityism control, including my children. I don't have, there's no private property. Uh, Government run schools like we are already going to in America. But the thing of it is, the government controls everything, businesses, uh, production, farming, ranching, everything is controlled by the government. And then somehow everything's free. Folks, if you're buying into that, you are an idiot. And I don't care, again, I don't care who you are that I'm saying that to. So I don't care if Mamdani is a Muslim, but he should run on the principles that made America great in the first place. And I'm not saying MAGA. I'm talking about the country that was founded by the founding fathers, the founding mothers. The foundation of America was so powerful and so new that we would have a government based on self-government, that we, the people, are in charge. The first three words of the Constitution, we, the people, are in charge. We bestow all power and authority politically, and we can take it back. It belongs to us. And so this thing about Mamdani, I cannot fathom. I guess I'll say this one interview I saw on YouTube where this lady was asked, who are you voting for mayor? And she says, Mamdani. And he goes, you really want New York to become a socialist city? New York City become a socialist city? She goes, no, I don't really care for socialism. He goes, well, that's what he's professing. Yeah, but I like some of his other ideas, and I didn't like the other candidates. So we're now just kind of groping, hoping that we won't be socialists while we vote for the biggest socialist in the country. And he's more of a communist. He's really a communist. The things he's been saying are totally Marxism. And folks, just so you know, communism came from Marx. And if you look up the Communist Manifesto on the internet, you'll find out why we oppose it. One other point here, Annie. United States of America fought at least 4, maybe 5 wars, and then fought the Cold War to keep America from becoming communistic and socialistic, and to what perestroika was, to not get rid of communism because we knew we would never do that, but to keep it contained, to keep it where it was and not let communism expand. And Mikhail Khrushchev, who was prime minister of Russia or the Soviet Union when I was young, and I remember how much he scared me. He was mean looking, he was ugly, he was fat, he was just always talking, he was mad, and he scared me. But he said something I've never forgotten. America will wake up one day and realize that she's socialistic, and no one will ever have to fire a shot, because this will happen from within. And now we have Sanders and AOC and many others there in Washington, D.C., who have infiltrated our United States Congress. And indeed, America is starting to embrace communism as if this has never happened in the world before. And we've got all these new great ideas. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And I will tell you, my family and I love to visit New York. We won't be returning. As much as we love baseball and as much as we love Broadway, we will not be returning. We do not trust it, and no one else should either.
Agreed. I do, factually, I do care also that he's a Muslim based on the fact that Sharia is also complete opposite of our Constitution. And now if he was,
Exactly. And I do not, jihadist, is he a jihadist in disguise now that he's taking over one of the greatest cities in the world? Because we don't know if he is, but it fits what he's been saying.
yes, and also not only it fits, he has publicly been anti-Semite. His father sits at a chair next to a Hamas member. Mamdani himself grew up in a more of a Muslim house than a socialist house, meaning the upbringing was the jihad mindset. His sponsors, as Linda Sarsour said herself on a video, the a majority of funding of Mamdani campaign came from CARE, an unindicted co-conspirator of Holy Land Foundation. So yes, when we
Yeah.
connect the dots, the odds are against us with this man now being mayor. And here's, you said something, Sheriff Mack, I want to touch on. I want to go back and touch on that lady who said, no, I'm not a fan of socialism, but I liked more of his stuff than the other candidates. I really feel like America is suffering from lack of proper candidates. We barely,
Yeah.
I said this on my own show the other day. I said one of the reasons, myself personally, one of the reasons I got fired up and excited in 2016 when President Trump came down the escalator and said, I'm running, was the fact that I said, finally, a Republican who can be a bully, who can be blunt, who can fight back, he's not afraid. All of that was my I didn't know anything about his policy yet because nobody did, but just his
Right.
character, his personality of not dodging and budging and bending got me fired up. Do I today criticize some of his actions? Yes. But I still like the fact that he can stand there and not be bullied or not be a pushover. But he's the only one. I can't name another Republican in power or candidate running for midterm or next year or year after that that has that characteristics. And I think that's why
Yeah.
someone like Mamdani wins. As you said, many people weren't okay with his socialism, many weren't okay with his Islamism. But that attitude and the charisma at the same time being angry enough, at the same time being funny enough, that's what got him in the office.
Well, and I was a school teacher. I taught junior high and high school just about oh 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I taught for about 6 years. And I had Muslim kids in my class, and I had a couple of them on my basketball team. I was a basketball coach, and they were still very Muslim, but they also were very respectful of America and our ideals here, and they loved being part of America. And I'm telling you, I love these kids, and they loved me. And we had religious beliefs that were a little bit different. And I spoke to their mother, and she goes, I want you to know, we don't believe in the killing stuff, and we believe in assimilating and being part of the community here. And that's fine. I believe that you can still practice most of your religion and still be an American. And if you want to be a part of America, fine. But this is still what scares me about Mamdani. We don't know enough about him, and he's never really done anything. And this could be a huge infiltration of the Muslim radicals that helped him get in and that are now going to be running New York City. And New York City has a way of branching out throughout the world. And so, yeah, that very much concerns me because he is such uh, an anomaly and just such an unknown. And Cuomo was right. He's never done anything. He's never run anything in his life. What was he, part of the city council for a little bit or something? But this this really worries me because I believe that tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of the enemies of America have infiltrated our country, and they're changing us and attacking us and destroying us from within. And Abraham Lincoln predicted that as well. He said, America will never be destroyed from the outside.
Mm-mm.
If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. And I believe that's what's happening here.
Yes, and let's take this and go into the I don't believe that November 4th, 2025 was this giant red blue wave First of all, most of them were blue states anyways, or
They're
purple
blue. They're
states.
all blue states. Yeah, they're very
The
blue states.
manipulation of media is back already. They're trying to make it as midterm is gone. Don't be hopeful. But I had people, Sheriff Mack, contacting me, panicked of how are we going to flip seats in midterm? And I'm like, listen, this is a Democrat city, Democrat state, getting Democrats in. But my point is, when we say from within, the media is at it again. The first thing they do
Yeah.
is lie. This is a lie. To say this was a blue wave is a misstatement at the least.
Okay, it was two governor races that we knew were blue all along, and uh, how the people of Virginia though pick what's his name, King, who the current governor of Virginia,
Yes.
Kingman. Anyway, I don't remember his name. King something. Anyway, how they go from that to this
A
real
a
leftist
Spanberger.
extremist.
Spamberger.
Yeah, yeah. But well, how is this? But Virginia is a pretty strong. There, some people say it's purple, but no, it's pretty. It's been pretty strong blue, and the current governor beat a very horrible governor that people were tired of. But this is still the message that I'm very concerned about, folks. We had 4 years of open borders and run amok crime all across our country, especially in the major cities, New York, Los Angeles, Detroit, Chicago, all of them going crazy, letting people out. Like New York City has 10 gang bangers beating up two cops, one a lady cop and one a male cop. And they're beating them up and nobody helped them. I would have been proud to get in there and start helping them. But no, nobody helps. They watch them get beat up. They get arrested. They go into jail. And an hour later, the guy comes out that was the ringleader of it and flips everybody off. He's right out. This is what's happening to America, folks. And look who came in during the 4 years of Obama and Harris. I mean, Biden and Harris. Same thing. Obama probably ran the presidency. But Biden and Harris all were so willing to have these criminals infiltrate America. And now it's like the Democrats can't even remember any of that. The murders, the rapes, the fentanyl, the human trafficking, the children being forced into sex slavery. That was happening here. Children were coming across from Latin America with their families, and a lot of the families, in order to pay the cartels to bring them into America, had to sell their children. Folks, who reported that? Hardly anybody in the mainstream press. How do you think these people got that money? They sold their children, and 350,000 to 400,000 children came up missing because they were sold into sex slavery. That's why. And now all of you want to go back to the Democrats who caused all of that? The Democrats brought that into America. And the only reason, the only benefit that was to the Democrats was to add people to the Democrat voter rolls so that they could have a monopoly on political power all across the country. That was the only reason they did it. It was the ultimate treason. These people are all traitors. And now we're welcoming them back to bring their communism, socialism, and save us from Trump theories, which is absolutely absurd. And folks, if you're going to be that stupid to go back to the Democrats and say, yes, we want more of what they brought us during the Biden administration. Folks, the first thing Trump did was secure the border, enforce the law at the border. Do you know that somebody coming into this country violates about 26 laws? It's illegal, folks. And for you to say, oh, well, they're just working now and paying taxes and whatever it is. I don't care what they're doing. And I don't blame them for wanting to be here because of those banana republics in Latin America. I don't blame them. But there's a legal and lawful way to do it, folks. And you got to remember why the Democrats did this. And now you're helping them, for God's sakes.
I know, I don't understand it either. But one thing I have learned about just in my regular life, I do have friends. I have two very close friends who are leftists, Democrat, registered Democrat, but
Yeah.
identify as liberals. And one thing I have learned is they are so committed to the cause that they don't care. They don't. They keep voting Democrats, regardless
Oh,
of
yeah.
policies, regardless of damages, regardless of
Yeah.
that's the next person. Since we're in Virginia,
Yeah.
the only result that shocked me to my jaw dropping was when Jones was elected.
Jay Jones.
Yes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I get your hatred for Trump, I get your hatred for Republican, but you're willing to vote for a man, for Attorney General, who stood there and said he would like to put a bullet in his opponent and his entire family. How? How does one get up and vote for this man? As an individual, what were they thinking that it is okay to put this man, attorney general, deals with crime and punishment and all of that? How do you let this man be in charge of your entire states of as attorney general when he admittedly stands there and said, I want to put a bullet in somebody just because they're my opponent? It
Yeah.
wasn't like he said, I want to
Yeah.
put a bullet in some
That's,
criminal from
I knew you
Venezuela.
were gonna, I knew you were gonna say Jay Jones because I was shocked about that one too. I said, there's one race that the Republicans will win. And the
Exactly.
Republican was an incumbent. And so, yeah, I was totally shocked by that. What would a Democrat have to do in order to not get elected? How bad, how debased, how absolutely pathetic does a candidate have to be before the Democrats will turn? And you're right. They have blinders on. Whoever has the D after their name, that's who they're going to vote for, and it's absolutely destroying our country.
But again, it's disturbing to know individuals when I voted for this person. But then it brings me up to a question I haven't heard anyone ask. Maybe I missed it, but I've been thinking constantly of maybe it's just my coping mechanism trying not to give up on my fellow Americans who would vote for such an individual. But what are the chances that election fraud is happening again? Is
Well, I think it's
anybody
very
looking into
likely.
that?
Yeah, it's very likely. No, because as long as you're using computers to tabulate your votes, you don't know who's really in charge. And I can guarantee you, if those computers were actually manufactured in China or other foreign countries, I guarantee you that we don't know the truth of any of these elections.
But because that's the thing. Logically, somebody was saying like, the Democrat Party should have just kicked Jones after he said what he said. We all know Democrat Party is all about this. They love what Jones said.
Yeah,
Democrat Party is the party that has started political assassinations and executions. They don't
yeah.
mind the idea, but to believe that people voted for this. I really have, if I believe that, Sheriff Mack, I have to stop being the human rights activist I am. Because humans wouldn't vote for a
Yeah.
man with that mindset. Would they? That many of them?
Um,
Over
you know,
1.6 million?
but look at the people all over the country. Look how many uh, cheered
Oh, I
when
know.
a good man was assassinated just a couple of months ago. This when even AOC, okay, AOC never uh, expressed any condolences to his wife or children or to his family. None. When they first put a mic and camera in front of her face, she simply said this: I told everybody that they should have a universal background checks. If you're not going to have universal background checks, then this is what's going to happen. And I've been pushing universal background checks. Well, can I say something right now, Annie, to AOC?
Absolutely.
Dear Congresswoman AOC, You are a complete imbecile because I sued the federal government when I was sheriff in Arizona in 1994. I won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court in 1997, June 27, 1997. Look it up. Mack, M-A-C-K, Mack v. U.S. And that was the Brady Bill. And the Brady Bill was background checks, universal background checks. For anyone purchasing a gun, they had to get a background check. And the sheriffs of this country were required to do it. And I said the federal government is not my boss and they can't tell me what to do. And I'm not doing gun control for them. And I didn't. However, there's this thing, it's a crazy thing in legalese. It's called the severability clause. And the background checks were not taken out of the law. The Brady Bill, that one stayed. What they couldn't do is force officers of the state to do it. The federal government took it over, and it's called the Brady Bill background checks. And the FBI now does those checks. So before you start spouting your mouth, why don't you look at history? But that's the problem. You do not know American history. You do not know what's going on. You just wag your little booty around and your stupid comments. And go ahead. You said your door was open. How about if I come to your office and that door is open for me, and I come and we sit down and we talk about the realism and the reality and the truth about what the law is in America? Because you don't follow the law. You don't even know that we already have background checks, and you're sitting there spouting off about background checks. And some states had it even before 1994 when this was going on, when this law was passed. It was the Brady Bill, okay? Handgun Violence Prevention Act, okay? And you're in Congress and you don't even know that? And you think that we still need universal background checks? I know you're good at some things, but truth is not one of them.
Well, since we touched on Democrats, Mamdani, and now AOC, what would you like to tell people, voters, Americans, citizens, your fellow Americans, who refuse to believe that there is no longer a Democrat Party, but rather the new leaders and faces of Democrat have turned it fully into Socialist Communist Party?
They've been doing that for a long time. I was at the World Conference, and they have about 105 speakers. I was one of 5 conservatives invited. This is at the University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado. And so it's very liberal. And I was sitting down having lunch, and I sat down next to 2 staunch, very powerful in the state of Colorado. I think one was the party chair, one was the vice chair of the Democrat Party of the state of Colorado. And I introduced myself, they introduced themselves, and I said, yeah, okay. I said, I'd really like to talk to you about some of what you're doing. And, they were telling me the things they really supported and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you guys know you're not really Democrats. According to the origination of the Democrat platform, you're socialists. And neither one of them cared that they were called socialists. They know they're socialists. And yes, they are promoting and have been. That conference was like 15 years ago. The Democrat Party has been pushing socialism for a long time. And when Trump or other politicians, even John McCain, quite the socialist himself, would say, we're never going to be a socialist nation. We already are. And we have been for some time. What do you think all these freebies and these entitlements and taking money from people who work and giving it to the people who don't? 40 million people are on food stamps in this country. I mean, where do you think that comes from? But this is the thing about that. Let's just make it very clear that entitlement programs and me paying for somebody else's abortion and neighbors paying for abortions and your food and your your car and your phone and your schooling. And that all comes from your neighbors, taxpayers, and we're all forced through the color of law. We're all forced at the point of a gun to be kind and charitable to people who are less fortunate. That is not charity. That is tyranny. I'll be the first one to donate to people. I have all the time, and I make thousands of dollars of donations every year. But when you force someone to be charitable, and you'll not find that anywhere in the Bible. Jesus did tell us to be kind and to help the poor. He never said once for the Roman soldiers, go make sure that that person is donating to the poor. That's what America is today. We are all forced to be part of these entitlement programs where trillions and trillions of dollars have been spent since Lyndon Johnson declared the war on poverty. And we have more poverty now than we did then. But regardless, in America, we're not supposed to be forcing people to be charitable with the guns of government and having them be kind and generous to others and the people who are poor. Teaching people that they don't have to work and yet they can still make a living off those who do is wrong and immoral. And yes, should we all be kind and generous to the poor? Yes. Should any of us be forced by government to do that? Never. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And for you Democrats to brag, and some of you Republicans to brag that that's exactly what we do, is really, again, just showing your lack of character and your lack of knowledge of what the American dream and the American experiment was all about.
Here's a question for you. Do you believe that American experiment, more specifically our Constitution and the laws of the Constitution, the ruling of Constitution, was it built on Judeo-Christian values?
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Of course it was. In the Declaration of Independence, it talks at the very beginning that all of this was based on the laws of nature and nature's God. So even if can you be an American and be an atheist? Of course. I don't understand anyone being an atheist, but you have the right to do that. Freedom of religion also means that freedom from religion. You cannot be forced to be religious. But John Adams said, and there are good people who are atheists. Don't get me wrong, they are. And I have friends and family that are. We all do. But John Adams said that our Constitution was aimed at a religious and moral people and is wholly inadequate for any other. So do we all have to be religious, and can they force us to be religious? No. But we can still be of high moral character. I don't understand that, but we can still be of high moral character. I have a very good friend that's an atheist, and he's one of the best people I've ever known. And he takes his personal morals very seriously. And I love him. But at the same time, he agrees with us. He agrees with the Declaration of Independence. He agrees with the Constitution. He defends it intensely. He's actually a lawyer. So, folks, when it talks about all of that, and then when it says in the next paragraph of the Declaration of Independence that we were endowed, that means we were gifted. We were endowed by our Creator. We were gifted by God Almighty with certain unalienable rights that cannot be touched or moved or changed. And chief among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let me ask all of you right now, how have we done on protecting life in this country when our foundation is based on that? And liberty for all people. Can anyone tell me, besides our organization, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA, CISPOA, all of you can become members of this. Join our posse today. Go to CSPOA.org POA.org. And you can see for yourself what we stand for. We believe in protecting the civil rights. We believe every sheriff, every deputy, every patrol officer, every detective has their main goal and assignment and responsibility protect the civil rights of all people. Can you name another organization in the country that is actually dedicated to doing that? And don't say the NAACP, because Martin Luther King used to be doing that, yes. They're not doing it anymore. They're just a branch of the Democrat Party. We are the one organization doing that more than any other. Southern Poverty Law Center doesn't give a hoot about that. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, they don't care about that either. They care about socialism, all of them. And folks, socialism and communism are not Americanism. And America is dying. And that's what we saw this past Tuesday.
Agreed. Since you brought up your organization, I also saw that in New York City, many police officers, including chief of police, are submitting their resignation. Uh, there are different there are different reactions to it, but I want to know your reaction. If you were a chief of police or a police officer or a sergeant or any role in NYPD, where would you be? Do you agree with them resigning? Do you not agree with them? Or what are your thoughts on this?
I understand them leaving, but I actually disagree with it. We need good people staying there and defending us and helping with this horrible transition that we're going to be looking at. Mamdani is not a king. The Democrats don't want kings. Remember, they're
Good one.
anti-king. Yeah, that's a good one. Uh, he's not a dictator. There's other people on the city council, hopefully, that will be keeping him in check. But folks, we need good, honest law enforcement in New York City. Don't leave. There's also huge companies that are now getting ready to leave, and some have already left. Wall Street, they're moving out of New York. I don't think it'll be all of them, obviously, but there's a lot that are considering it. But I think some of them are still going to take a wait and see approach because there are other checks and balances that are not going to allow Mamdani to do everything he wants to do. I'm taking a wait and see approach. If good, honest, good cops, and I've met cops there several times. Let's wait and see. Don't leave. We need you now more than ever. But if he starts getting rid and he starts tying the hands of officers and handcuffing cops in a, a theoretical sense, a metamorphical sense, yes, you're going to have to leave, and the people are going to have to leave because even if he just does one thing though, and the city council backs him, government-run grocery stores. Are you absolutely out of your head? But okay, go ahead. Let's try that one. And let's try freezing rent. Do you think that the people who are paying for those buildings are going to accept not being able to make a living? If they cannot live, that's a business. Running a rental building is a business. And if they don't make money, it leaves. It's kaput. It's out of business. They go bankrupt. And that's the thing about capitalism. It's based on free markets. Free, the key word. Free, not government run business, but free markets and competition to make a profit. And that is just exactly what you want in New York City. What is broken that he thinks he has to fix everything? The grocery stores there have been thriving. Let them thrive.
Yes, I agree with you. When I saw the information I completely understand where they're coming from. I understand they say we don't want to be where the mayor, the new mayor, and majority of people publicly hate us. And some of them said, well, they're going to fire us anyways. But I agree with you. You can't leave the battlefield and expect a
No.
victory.
Look, Florida will still hire all of you.
Mhm.
So just wait and see. You're not going to be unemployed very long. There's lots of people that want you to, lots of cities that want good cops,
Yes, and
and
that's the thing.
especially in
I
Florida.
was thinking when you are a police officer in places like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, you have been really to the battlefield. You have faced some of the most
Of
dangerous
course.
situations. So other cities would love to have you in their police department. But now let's go to the big question. Many of us have this question. Some are optimistic, some are not. But now the question is, you are the constitutional sheriff. You know the Constitution like the back of your hand.
I do.
What constitutionally and legally, what are some of the actions President Trump himself can take when it comes to January 2026 and Mamdani officially mayor of New York City?
Well, first of all, if you read the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, and I'll read it real quickly. The United States shall guarantee to every state a republican form of government. Those of you who thought we were a democracy, that's a lie. That is fabricated. America is a constitutional republic, and it says every state in the union a republican form of government. And the United States government, quoting again, shall protect each of them against invasion. It's the federal government's job to protect our borders from invasion. And then it also says against domestic violence. Right here, Article 4, Section 4, against domestic violence. So uh, the Chicago mayor and the Illinois governor and Portland and the sheriff there and the mayors and governors in Los Angeles, the mayor and the sheriff and the chief of police, the sheriffs in every one of those jurisdictions should be stepping up and saying, I'm the sheriff of this county. Chicago is in Cook County and I'm the Cook County sheriff. We're going to take care of our own business here. We will make the streets safer again. Instead of having Trump take this on, you don't want Trump here? Then let's do our job. Let's work together. The chief of police, the sheriff, the mayor, the governor, and let's make it to where people want to live here. And let's get the gangs out of here. Let's get the cartels out of here. Let's get the Muslim extremist gangs out of here. We don't want the terrorists here. But for you guys to take the side of the worst criminals ever, we want all these immigrants to stay, no matter how horrible they are, no matter how much drugs they do, how many murders they cause every weekend or all the time. The sheriffs should be stepping up. And President Trump should not be the one having to clean up the cities across America. But they did it. And look, John F. Kennedy did it in 1962. He sent troops down to Montgomery, Alabama to make sure that the segregationist governor back then did not get his way, because he would not allow black students to go to the colleges there, the universities. And so John F. Kennedy sent troops into Montgomery, Alabama. It all stayed peaceful. And he made sure that those students got to go to the University of Alabama. Folks, John F. Kennedy did it and kept it peaceful. Trump is trying to keep it peaceful. But when you have cops that are ordered not to help when ICE agents are being attacked, are you kidding? How horrible do you have to get? Democrats, you need to wake up and see what's happening. Our country is running 10 times better now than it was under Biden. Biden brought all these criminals in. Trump has already secured the border, and we're all safer for it. But we still need to get the criminal element, the criminal gangs, the international terrorists, and the cartels out of our country and put them in jail where they belong or ship them back and make sure they don't get to come back. Folks, we've got a lot of work to do, and we're asking you to join us at cspua.org and become part of a peaceful and effective solution.
Fantastic. So let me narrow it down on that question.
Okay.
I wasn't saying that Trump should. I was trying to, because a lot of us have this question. For example, President Trump has stated that if Mamdani is sworn in, he's going to cut the federal budget for New York City. Is that constitutionally
Well,
doable? Is President
of
Trump's
course,
claim
the federal
doable?
government is not the federal government is not supposed to be funding the cities across this country anyway.
Okay.
Well, look, where does the federal government get their money? They get it from the states.
Mm-hmm.
And so, folks, no, this is improper funding. That we give them all this money and then they set up grants to send back. No, that's unnecessary. I don't agree with any of that. Federal grants are not constitutional. Those were
Right.
never, no, those were
No,
never
no, no.
supposed to be
Sheriff Mack, what I'm
exist.
trying to establish here is for those who are out screaming that Trump is already going against Constitution by claiming the actions he could take. That's why I asked what could he
But
do, because I'm trying to establish that he is not stepping out of bound. He's not breaking any law. First of
no,
all, he
he's
hasn't
not.
done it yet. He's claiming he's going to do it.
Right.
And I,
He's not. But the
including when
thing of it
he
is,
said he's going
the,
to send the National Guard to New York City, I do believe if Mamdani starts operating under communism, that is considered invasion because communism is banned in America. So, yes,
well,
President Trump can
yeah,
send the National
oh,
Guard to
that's
take over
actually
the
a good
city.
point. That's a real good point. But at the same time, uh, as I said, Trump shouldn't. The states and the city shouldn't be putting Trump in that position where he has to.
Yeah, but we
That he
both
cuts
know
off
they
federal
will.
funds, fine.
Sheriff Mack,
But
we both
yeah,
know
okay.
they will
Well,
put him in that
but
position.
the easy answer to that is if Mamdani is destroying New York and crime is going crazy, then absolutely Trump has a responsibility to come in and stop it. There's
Exactly.
no question about that.
So heads up to everybody. And again, I have personally, I do criticize President Trump, international policy, Middle East policy. However, when credit is due, it shall be given.
Let
Stop
me,
saying Trump is getting ready to be the king and the dictator. What he's
no,
proposing is a great step. It's the first negotiation step. Mamdani, you
right.
stay in your lane, I stay in federal government. You step out of your lane, I'll send my troops to put you back in your lane. That is completely
Okay.
constitutional.
However, you touched on a point I want to reinforce with the Supreme Court case. Now, this is a copy of my Supreme Court case. Okay. These are all available at my website. Okay. They're powerful. Now, listen to the United States Supreme Court in 1997. This has a huge solution to what you were just asking. Hence, and this is from the Federalist 51. And Scalia is quoting this from a U.S. Supreme Court victory, the only time sheriffs ever won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court, the only time in U.S. history. And he goes, I had this memorized. It's very powerful. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. Well, stop there. How does that happen that a double security arises to the rights of the people? By this, quoting again, the different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself. If New York will not control crime, if New York will not control itself, if Los Angeles, if Chicago, whoever, Portland, it doesn't matter. If they will not control themselves and do their jobs to protect the people, the other different governments can step in and should. So we can do the same to the federal government. If the federal government is promoting tyranny and terrorizing the people, and I would say maybe we should think about the states stopping the IRS because the IRS is a bully organization that is really unconstitutional. And I hope that Trump and Mike Johnson do something about that one too. But the different reason why we have three different branches of government is because the different governments will control each other.
Other. Mhm. Exactly. Bingo. We are unfortunately at the end of our segment. But
Ah,
before we go, in a minute or so, we touched on a lot. And the good news is our audience at the Glazov Gang, they are very well educated on all of these topics. But I feel like we gave them a lot of bad news. So, what would be your suggestion, Sheriff Mack, to our audience who just watched us and they feel down, they feel defeated? What would be your last words of wisdom for them not to turn off this show and feel absolutely defeated?
you are absolutely correct because there is hope for America. And CSPOA is leading the way on that hope because we train sheriffs to be the place you can go, the official CLEO of every county, the chief law enforcement officer, that when government becomes venal and oppressive, to whom can the American people turn for peace, safety, and freedom? And that's your county sheriff. He answers to you. You elect him, you appoint him, and he doesn't have any other boss. You and he. And we take America back, county by county and state by state. Folks, no matter where you live, you can go meet with your sheriff, talk to your sheriff, and tell him. Now, there's no sheriffs in Connecticut or Alaska and Hawaii, and those are three big mistakes. But there's sheriffs all throughout New York. There's not a New York County sheriff, but there's dozens and dozens of sheriffs all around New York City. Cook County has a sheriff. Los Angeles County has a sheriff. Go talk to your sheriff and tell him, we want you to be the one to make this county and this community safe again, working with local officials, working with other police departments in your county, and let's make America safe. For God's sakes, let's restore law and order. Democrats, it's okay to be pro law and order. Let's go. So you only need a handful of people working for you in your communities, but they need to hear from you. Call them, stop by and see them. Get involved in your community. Your sheriff is the best answer for restoring liberty county by county.
Amen. That is cspoa.org. I encourage everybody to go to the website, um, learn how to be responsible for your own county. We have to play a role. We cannot expect our sheriff department, police department, fire department, Congress, or every single body else to do it for us. So go to Sheriff Mack's website, get involved, and support their work. They're not funded by federal government. They're not funded by a state government. They are funded by those of you who care for this country enough to get
That's
involved
right.
in any shape or form possible. Sheriff Mack,
Thank
it
you.
is always a pleasure to chat with you. I learned so much when we chat. I appreciate your time. And as always, you are in my prayer, and I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And to our lovely audience, thank you so much for staying with us until now. Last reminder, we are a fan generated show. We are here and we do what we do because you support us. Head over to jamieglazov.com, make a contribution as we come to an end of the year, and we will take that gladly as your Christmas gift to all of us over here at the Glazov Gang. Thank you so much. And until next time, may God bless you and may God bless America. Goodbye.